was a fat ninth grader, and my uncle, Leonard, was the first state place winner in the history of Cleveland Heights. And my dad wrestled for Shaker. And I didn't know wrestling. Wrestling was like, coming off the turnbuckle. And so I went to my dad, and then Leonard came over, and I was talking about football, and I really wanted to be a better football player. They both said wrestle. And so I went and I met with Coach I, and he looked at me like, okay, this chubby little kid, So he says, come on out. And I did, and I was the worst kid on the team. But I learned quick. I learned, it was grit, initially, but it got my core strength incredible. It made me a much better football player. And then it also made me a better baseball player, a better golfer. I mean, all my hip strength, all my core strength just translated to the 4 sports I lettered in at this high school. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was Coach I and Kirk Morgenstern, who I absolutely love. I just had dinner with him and his wife, Joni. We reminisced. We hadn't seen each other in like 30 years. So, but Coach I was obviously the head coach, and he was coming into the golden age. We had Ricky Stone on the team, Ricky Sorkin on the team, David Fisher. I wrestled with Ricky Stone every day. So got me great, I wasn't Ricky Stone's caliber, but it got me a lot better. And so Ricky was a state champ. I was a freshman when Mark Haywald was there, our first state champ in any sport. And he was our idol, and we all wanted to be Mark. First of all, he was a stud. I mean, he just was a stud. But more importantly, he overcame something that was amazing. He lost a kidney, I think. I think it was a kidney, yeah. As a junior, came back and won the state title. And he was just a beast. He just outworked everybody, and he was solid, didn't make mistakes, and he had a hell of a pancake. So you just looked up to him. To have that as a freshman, to be able to look up to your first state champion in the history of our school, and it was our sport. It was pretty cool. Well, I came into the golden age. We took 4th in the state in 1979. I was the assistant coach. We had Stu Smiley on the team, Richie Harris almost made state, he's altered the state. We had Tommy Weiss, David Sternberg, Butch Lapsley, Jeff Tolan, Michael Goldberg, all these guys placed. David Sternberg was a 2-time state champ. Tommy made the state finals. Butch made the state finals. Michael made the state finals. Your father was there. He was a young guy. So we had some really, talented guys. We took 4th, 5th, and 7th in the state the 3 years I was there. So I coached in the golden era as the assistant coach. And then after that, completely the opposite in 1987 when I took over the program. We had 1 kid in the program, K through 12. I literally rebuilt the program with your dad, with Michael Goldberg, with Jeff Tolan. We all came together really as a family, and took a program from literally nothing, ready to be disbanded. 1 kid, James Gilmore, to what your dad did was 4th in the state, I believe, in 1994. So in 7 years, we went from literally nothing to that. And then again, in 14, I took over a program that was decimated as well. Dugan Bentley had left to go to his alma mater, and left pretty much the cupboard was bare. No disrespect to Dugan, he had to take his life ambition, and we rebuilt that program again. Brought in the perfect coach right now, Jimmy Greenwood, and turned it over to him in 17 and retired. I thought, but it was another rebuilding program that gave me a lot of satisfaction. But during the rebuild, the first rebuild, we had Aaron Grossman and Chad Silverstein and Brian Zeid and your uncle Ryan Peters, who was he was the horse. Everybody wanted to be Ryan, so he was the Mark Haywald of that generation. Yeah, and then the last era that I coached, we had Josh Bialowski, who made state, and we had like a little bit of a lull there, and he was also the guy, that everybody kind of wanted to be like. We had some hard workers too, Paul Jacobs. I mean, the Henry boys, we had a bunch of guys in there that, they weren't super talented, but they were hard workers, and they were indicative of what I was like as a coach and wrestler. Well, it's interesting. It's not so much me wrestling, but I was in the room when Jimmy Carr, Rick Sanders, who was an Olympic silver medalist, Jimmy Carr made the Olympics, Doug Weiss, Mark Haywald, I think Alan Cross was there, and they were all going at it. It was the fur was flying everywhere. I was a freshman, and I was watching this. I'm like, well, this is a pretty cool sport when I could see an Olympic silver medalist all in the same room in that little room, Beachwood. So that to me was the best memory as a Beachwood wrestler. As a Beachwood coach was different. Well, there's a couple. One is when Butch Lapsley beat the Kali guy from Coventry at the districts, and he had just beaten Ricky Sorkin the year before in the state finals, and Butch I think was a sophomore. And anytime Butch got on the mat, people went crazy for that twine. It was fantastic. People going like, Butchie, 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 it was phenomenal. And then, when Michael Goldberg made the state finals, it was like, I don't know, I was almost like, it was like an out-of-body experience that I was wrestling with him. He got beat. We didn't know what the heck the tilt was, but at the end of the day, to know that can happen, chills. Yeah, so Coach I really was a wrestling father. He and I just bonded immediately, and I had the honor of coaching with him twice, both at Beachwood and at Brush, and I really learned a lot from him. But there was a community there that we were able to build and change lives. And I just saw the article about Coach I from Michael Goldberg, and that was very indicative. And I had the honor of wrestling with Michael every day when he was in high school, and I was his assistant coach. And what Coach created, that community, gave me the impetus to know, hey, maybe I could do this. And so that is something I'll never repay. There's no way I can repay that. I think, I was a grinder. So as a wrestler, I wasn't great. I was good-ish, but people saw the work I put in, and then the progression I made just by hard work. Because I wasn't a very athletically talented, gifted guy, but I got everything out of it, and I was there, and I grinded. I banged heads. I remember Jeff Sorkin pulling my hair out, and we're banging heads, and I probably had 3 or 4 concussions in the sport, and so I think maybe that was my contribution, because it sure wasn't being on the podium. Just it's an absolute pure labor of love. It's for the love of the community that I loved, I grew up with. My backyard was the high school. The love of the sport, the love of the coaches, particularly Coach I, Tony DiCarlo, that gave me the opportunity to do this, and also to their love, particularly Coach I, and also the assistant coaches that came into the family. Just phenomenal human beings. Antonio Nicholson, your father, Michael Goldberg. I just love these guys and what they meant to the kids too. So, and of course the children. This building does not exist unless it's the children. And if you're not focused on your wrestler, don't do it. Leave the room. Yeah, so I get a lot of calls during the year from former athletes. Coach, hey, I got this I got to talk to you about, business-wise, personal-wise. So becoming that confidant, there's no greater compliment. And so coaching really is the ecosystem and the core of who I am in business, as well as obviously athletics. But in my life, it's been an honor to be able to be that person. And I take it with high respect, and it gives both the individual that's calling and the individual that's giving a lot of dignity. Be all in. Don't just try wrestling. Do and be wrestling.